Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm the Strategy Professor, and today we're doing the 8.5 patch notes video. So, last night I released the top 5 champions for each role for 8.5, so check that out. This is going to be, excuse me, just an analysis of the patch notes themselves, sort of what I think is going to change in the meta. I'll talk about Kesa, talk about some of the different itemization changes, just everything that goes on in the patch notes. Then I'm going to have an in-depth support tier list that I'll release either later today or tomorrow. I'm going to try to do all future patch related stuff in that kind of like cycle where I have the patch notes separate from the tier list, and then I have a separate like top 5 for each role. Just to try to bring the times down a little bit, see if I can get them to about an hour, maybe a little bit less, maybe even faster, we'll see. But I think making those 3 separate videos would be probably useful. So let's go ahead and get in here. If you want to access the timestamps, you can find those in the description if you don't have time to watch the whole thing. And you can access the Google Doc in the description as well. Okay, so Kesa. or Kaisa. I don't think she's going to be that great right out the gates, but I also don't think that she is as bad as people are saying she is. Now, statistically, she looks pretty bad. Right? If we look at just... you know, Platinum Plus, sort of the most advanced players even, 80 carry. She's sitting near the bottom with a 42% win rate, which is pretty rough. But there are several reasons for this, and I think one of the biggest things is people just don't know how to itemize her. You know, a lot of people are greedy trying to get all 3 of the evolutions. I'll pull her up really quick. We'll probably spend 10 or 15 minutes talking about her, because I know a lot of people are probably curious. So how she works is if you get 100 of different stats, then you get these bonuses. So if you get 100 bonus attack damage, it doubles the amount of missiles that you fire. 100 ability power gives you, you know, extra plasma on your W and refunds 50% of the cooldown. And then supercharger, when you get 100% attack speed, whenever you use it, you turn invisible for, you know, however long this is, right? 1.5 to 0.75. I think a lot of people are greedy and trying to get, you know, 2 or 3 of these with their builds, and people are just overthinking this and trying to get too cute. I think, like, Ginsu's Rage Blade, like, a popular build people are trying to do is, like, Ginsu's Rage Blade, Hurricane, like, Blade of the Ruined King, you know, that type of stuff, and I don't really think that's the ideal build on her. I have played with a couple of Kaisas. We won both games. And I did see someone do the Ginsu's, which was okay. But I think the best one is probably Essence Reaver, just the Essence Reaver build. Essence Reaver Static Shiv, i.e. Rapid Fire Cannon. And the way that you do this, you build Essence Reaver first, and then you get a pick. Next, that'll put you at 100 AD, and that will allow you to trigger the missiles. And the missiles are the biggest upgrade there is, because that's double damage on your Q, effectively. And that is really strong. If you can get someone isolated, and that's really what she's all about, I feel like, is if you can get people isolated, get them away from the minion wave, and then fight them, you can do a lot of burst damage. That's, you know, up to 473 with a 172% AD ratio, which is massive. And that goes down to a 6-second cooldown. So you definitely want to max her Q first, I think, for bonus damage. Definitely not the W. You could make an argument for the E, but I don't think so. I mean, the E is good, but the Q is definitely where you want to be. So, you know, if you roll up and pop this on somebody, you're going to knock out like half of their health. And then, you know, when you trigger your passive, it's going to do a ton of damage. So I think that's the best build. Essence Reaver is also really nice because it lowers the cooldown on a lot of your abilities, like a Cathian Rain and Killer Instinct and stuff like that. So any champion that's going to do a lot of damage based on their abilities, it's not strictly like a right-click type of champion, is going to like Essence Reaver, and I think people are figuring this out more and more. Essence Reaver also has a really nice build path because it has an alternative to BF Sword. So if you have to back and you don't have 1,300 gold, you can still grab a couple of long swords or a couple of long swords and boots. You know, there are just a lot of different permutations where, you know, if you're just really counting on that BF Sword, if you're trying to go BF Sword into Zeal, into like Infinity Edge, something like that, it's really nice, but you have to have very, very specific back timings, because if you don't have that 1,300 gold and you're trying to build a BF, well, that sucks. If you have to get a Crit Cloak or a Pickaxe, it's okay, but it's not nearly as good as the longswords. So being able to use longswords in the build is really powerful because it's just much more forgiving with your back timers. So the fact that she can really take advantage of Essence Reaver is good. And you get the pick in there randomly after you finish Essence Reaver because that gives you 25 extra AD, and that'll be enough to give you the living weapon. Because Essence Reaver itself, I believe, is 70. Might be 75. $70. Pick's going to give you 25, and then you're going to get like 5 off of your runes that you get with her. If we pull her up really quickly, you'll notice this is the build that a lot of people have caught on to. And she has such high AD ratios that you really want a double AD item, so you really want Essence Reaver Infinity Edge. Even though she doesn't have anything specifically that scales with crit, the fact that she gets a heck of a lot of attack speed off of this is really nice. But she has really high AD ratios on her ult, on her Void Seeker, and on her Q. So, you really want to get a lot of AD. And she doesn't, I mean, she does have on-hit interactions with her second skin. If you hit somebody 5 times, you're going to trigger this plasma. That's not usually going to happen more than once in a fight. I mean, it could, in theory, if there are lots of immobilizing effects going on. But I think that scaling her off of AD is a good move, kind of like what you do with Xayah. So people like top-end players have already got her win rate up to 50%. You'll notice that's kind of what a lot of people are doing here. A lot of people have figured it out. There's less and less of this Ginsu's garbage going on, and there's much more Essence Reaver, Infinity Edge, and then either Static Shiv or Rapid Fire Cannon. You'll get both of them eventually, but it's kind of up to you which one you want first. This allows you to hit first, assassinate, blow people up a little bit better. And Static Shiv's going to give you some better wave clear. I think most of the time you would want Static Shiv. Yeah, people are still kind of goofing around with her a little bit, but that's the primary build here. You can see this guy went Essence Reaver, pick, Static Shiv. I think that is, that's probably going to be the standard. You can try to go double BF sword if you want. I think that's a little overkill. I think that's going to slow down your build a bit too much. I mean, now Cody's son was he was having some problems this game. He's 2 and 5. This one where he went 14 and 1 though. He's still trying out this double BF sword. I don't know. I mean, people are still trying to figure out the maximum thing. I guess if you go BF first and then double longsword another BF, that would give you 100. Anyways, the main goal, regardless of your build, should be to max out that Q by like 11 or 12 minutes. I think this is probably a little overkill on the AD, but I mean, it's nice. You just don't have any attack speed, and you're really slowing down some of your modifiers. I personally feel like that's too long to complete your big ticket items, your big crit items. Because Essence Reaver is just so nice. Like, it's so good when you complete it because you get all that extra CDR and it gives you the extra mana back so you can wave clear a lot faster with your missiles. So yeah, anyways, that's what most people are doing. That's what most people are building with her. I think as far as her, like I said, her playstyle, you want to isolate people. If minions soak up these rockets, that's really bad. So if you can roam and catch people out in the jungle or catch people out in mid lane, I do think she might be an okay mid laner. I'm not sure, though, because the AP mids are so strong right now. And you really don't want to waste time getting things like Hex Drinker. He's not going to be good with that. She's not going to be good with that. You need to be able to rush and get that AD as fast as possible. So if you're against something like an Anivia or a Cassiopeia or something like that, you might have some problems. She doesn't have the same level of mobility as someone like Lucian. What lets Lucian kind of get away with going mid and top sometimes is that he does have that mobility, so he can dodge a lot of the skill shots and really abuse some of these AP mid laners that don't have a great laning phase. But she doesn't have that. She does have some mobility with her Killer Instinct. Obviously, that's good once she gets it, but it's on a long cooldown. It's not consistent like Lucian's ability to dash around. So I think that uniquely makes Lucian pretty good. And then Corki is another one who has really good wave clear, really good poke, and he can get away very easily with his W. And he has the package, so he can roam around the map really well. These are things that make those champions that are traditionally AD carries like viable in the mid lane. Also, Corki does a lot of AP damage, so he slots in nicely. Whereas if you run AD middle with her and you run an AD bot, that can create some itemization problems. Like the enemy could just, you know, stack all armor. She does do some magic damage, obviously. She has some hybrid damage, but her big ticket damage is still physical, which is her Q. So yeah, I had initially thought maybe she'd be an alright mid laner, but, you know, after thinking about it a bit more, I don't think so. And I don't think she's going to be that great in the jungle either. I mean, it's possible. I haven't seen her in the jungle a lot, but she doesn't really have any crowd control, and I just think that's a hallmark of most good junglers right now, with the exception of a few, like Kha'Zix. Mostly Kha'Zix. But most other junglers need to have some kind of crowd control. Excuse me. Or their ganks are just going to be too weak. So I do think that she's going to be an AD, and I think that later in the game, you could use her as like a pick or split champion. I'm not sure how she would stack up against someone like a Camille. I think Camille would still take her to the house, like a good Camille player. But maybe not. I don't know. Maybe that invisibility is strong enough. You know, if someone tries to jump on you, just go supercharger, reposition, then just open on them with the Q and just blow them out. That's possible. I mean, I'd have to see. She seems like she does a lot of damage once she gets a couple of items, though, with that supercharger. Because the thing about this is it's basically always up. Once you get a decent amount of attack speed, this is going to be up almost all the time in fights. And so it just gives you like a permanent 80%. So she does quite a bit of sustained damage in fights. Like, the 500 range is an issue. But she's okay. I mean, she's all right. I just don't think she's going to be great for a little bit, but I think once people figure out she's primarily used as a pick champion, so she's like an assassin that's also an AD carry, and they really try to play around this Acathian Rain. So just going Essence Reaver, Static, Infinity Edge, maxing this, and then just warding really well and looking for pick opportunities, so maybe rotating between lanes. If she catches people out between lanes with her R, she can do that from quite a big distance. Then I think she might have some place in solo queue. I'm not sure in pro play if that's what you want, but so she's kind of like Vayne. She's a duelist, but she really wants to be able to get the jump on people with her R. I hope they lower this cooldown a little bit, or just give it something. This feels a little lackluster. I mean, it's cool when you get in there, but it feels like the type of thing that should at least have resets on it, or just like something to lower the cooldown. Like having to wait that full 110 seconds. Like this feels like this is necessary for her to win one-on-ones a lot of time. So, you know, if they have to lower the numbers on it, that's fine. But especially because she is, she's supposed to be Kassadin's daughter, I think. You know, mobility is really Kassadin's hallmark. And so I think that giving her more mobility would be really helpful, even if they had to rework this. I think that would fit her kit a lot better than this. It's kind of like a long cooldown, like temporary shield that does no damage, that has, you know, it does have a lot of range, but I don't know. I would rework her R to make it maybe even shorter range, but you could even make it conditional if you wanted to, right? Kind of like Yasuo, like you have to hit somebody with a W, or you have to get, you know, so many plasmas on people, or maybe if you triggered plasma on someone, you know, you get that 5 hits on them, maybe it would refresh it. I don't know, just something where this would be up more often than every 2 minutes, or every minute even, once you get the CDR. But overall, I think she's alright. She's got nice scaling. She's a good duelist once you get the Q upgrade, if you can get people outside the minion wave, so primarily in the jungle, or like after you've pushed the wave, then you engage on them before the next wave shows up. That's a really good time to bust them out. And yeah, so I think you want to push waves and then try to isolate people as they rotate through the jungle. Best build, like I said, Essence Reaver, Pick, Static, i.e. Rapid Fire Cannon. Best runes seem to be Fleet Footwork, Overheal, Alacrity, Coup de Grace, and then Celerity and Gathering Storm. Because she benefits so well from AD, and she's kind of a late game AD carry anyways. And then Essence plus Pick equals, you know, the upgraded Q, high burst damage on the Q with a low cooldown, And static is better, I think, most of the time than rapid fire because it gives you better wave clear, more burst. Other builds, you could see the Ginsu, Hurricane, Blazer, and King. For me, it just takes too long to charge up, you know, and she's primarily meant to be like I see her like a burst assassin type of character. I wouldn't want to be sitting there charging this up. But, you know, it can work. I just think it's just trying too hard to get all 3 activations, maybe with the Ginsus. I don't really know. I mean, maybe this is better for sustained team fights. Definitely after they nerf Ginsu's next patch, I don't think you're gonna be seeing that a lot, or at least how they're proposing to nerf it. And then I did see an interesting build. I don't see anyone doing this, but I did see somebody go mid Kaisa with Ghostblade plus Duskblade, which I thought was curious. That did play into the whole assassin model. I've only seen one person do that so far. Actually, no. Here's somebody trying it. They're about to nerf Duskblade next patch too, though, I think. At least that's the rumor on the street. So I don't know if it's even worth discussing it. But like that would fit her playstyle because her Q does a lot of base damage. And usually champions that benefit really highly from lethality have abilities that do really high base damage that can't critically strike. Right, so you think in Zed, Talon, stuff like that. Historically very good with Ghostblade. It's pretty much what she is. Like, this Q can't critically strike. She wants to be a burst champion. You know? She does have the attack speed, but if you're really trying to play around, you know, just one-shotting somebody with this Acathian Surprise, and she does go invisible if you get the supercharger going. Although, if you're getting Duskblade, Ghostblade, you're not going to have enough attack speed to get to this. Most likely, so that's kind of ironic. So I don't know, you can toy around with that build if you want. I don't think it's amazing, but, you know, if you want to go mid lane Kaisa and you just want to roam the side lanes really hard and just have a faster power spike. Because remember, Essence Reaver's like 3,600, 3,400, 3,400, and Duskblade's like 29, I think. So you can get moving and start snowballing a lot harder with Duskblade. You are still going to get the CDR, which is really nice. You have a little bit less attack damage, which kind of sucks, but, you know, if you go Duskblade and Ghostblade, you can still get to that threshold pretty quickly, I think. What are the components of this? Yeah, a bunch of longswords. Yeah, I think you can still get to that limit pretty quickly. I don't know. Like I said, it's not super popular, but that is another option where you could go double lethality items. I think it'd probably be pretty trash late game, but this would give you the movement speed to run around and try to catch people out and play around your ultimate. I would still just stick with the Essence Reaver static Infinity Edge, though. And the reason that you don't go for double, like, static and then rapid fire cannon is because you have to buy the pick to get to the 100, and then once, like, to get to the 100 AD for the Q, and then once you already have a pick, you're kind of priced into doing something with that pick, and the best thing you can do is Infinity Edge. So that's why people will go 1-0 item, but you don't want to sit on that pick for too long because it's just not very cost efficient. You want to upgrade it into something. So prediction, I think she could be a top 7 AD carry when all settles out, maybe this patch or next patch. Next patch is going to shake things up because Cog and Varus are going to fall a lot if that Ginsu goes through, that Ginsu's change. But right now, you know, my top that I talked about yesterday for AD carry are going to be Xayah, Trist, Jinx, Twitch, Varus, Cog, and then Kaisa. I would rather see her on my team, honestly, than a Caitlyn or a Sivir or a Jhin or even a Misfortune, probably, because she does have, like, pretty good scaling later into the game. She's relatively easy to use. So I would rather see her than some of those champions, but I would rather see these previous 6 probably on my team before I'd see her. Okay, support changes. Let's get into the patch notes proper here. How long did it take? Like 15 to 20? Yeah, that's about what I thought. Let's scroll up a little bit here. Now, I have had a few days to play on this patch, too, and just kind of get a feel for, you know, what's been going on from the streams. Now, people were freaking out about this a little bit, removing Bandit. I don't think this is that big of a deal, honestly. You are getting a little bit more tribute gold here. This 4 gold per 10 is actually very close to what you would get with Bandit. And I watched Freak's video, and this is guaranteed gold per 10. So when you're roaming around or late game, when you're not able to be near every minion wave, and, you know, when you're warding and stuff like that, you're still generating this gold. So, if anything, I really don't think this is going to make a meaningful difference for most people. Basically, what this comes down to, the Bandit passive, is you get 6 gold, basically 12 gold per minute, 13 gold per minute, because you get 6 minions that roll down the lane every 30 seconds, and every other minion wave has a cannon, which is going to be 7 minions. So that's 13 gold per minute on average. Just from the passive, like minions die, you get the gold. And then if you can proc Bandit, then you're definitely going to be losing out. Bandit is 3 gold that refreshes. I think it was every 5 seconds. So on champions that have very consistent harass, you're going to get less gold. You know, on champions like Xayah. Now this will give you up to an extra 30 gold per minute off of this Frostfang. And most of the people who are really abusing Bandit well were Spell Thief users. So, you know, this recharges. I think every 10 seconds you get a charge of this. You can get up to 3 charges every 30 seconds. So, you know, that's 30 gold. And what did I say? It was 13 per. So that means if you would... if you get all of these procs... Which, this is so easy on someone like Zyra, you know, if you just pop a Q plant on somebody, that's going to get all 3 procs probably, because the plant's going to usually attack them twice. So you hit them with the Q, plant attacks them twice, boom, there's your Spell Thieves. If you can just do that once every 30 seconds. Real simple to do. You can even sneak in some auto attacks every now and then. You can even auto attack towers to trigger it. So, you know, this is pretty consistent. Now, you have to upgrade it to get that, though. So, really early in the game, you know, before your first back, it's going, you know, you're going to lose a little bit of the gold off the Spell Thieves. But getting 30 per minute, that would be the same as, you know, getting like 6 Bandit procs or so in a minute, which those are just auto attacks. Those aren't Q hits. I think that's fair. I mean, I don't think you would get much more than 6 autos. It depends on what you're playing against, but... Either way, I don't think a lot of people are going to notice this a lot. Lockout clears upon... What lockout? Oh, I see. Oh, you don't get any more lockout? So basically, if you kill a minion or monster, then you don't get your passive gold per 10 anymore. And you get locked out, like, so if you kill a minion, then you can't generate tribute either. But now this is saying once you complete the quest, so at tier 2, then the lockout no longer happens anymore. Okay, so that's actually pretty nice. So once you get that quest item completed, with your tribute generation, okay, so that means that you're going to be able to get around this lockout a lot faster, and you don't have to buy the tier 3, so really the gold generation is going to amp up, and you're free to wave clear a little bit if you need to without worrying about losing these stacks. So it's okay. I don't think it's going to make that big of a deal for either one of these. It's not going to be, you know, maybe at the very end of the game, after like a 35-minute game, you know, it might be 100, 200 gold less, something like that. It's not really going to be anything noticeable throughout most of the game, I don't think. And the reason they're doing this is to stop champions like primarily Gangplank from abusing this. Now, was Gangplank abusing this so hard that he was super overpowered? You know, I don't think so personally, not after the most recent nerfs. But at the same time, you know, it's an ongoing balancing issue that they would have to think about anytime they want to change any champion in other lanes. Is like, what if this champion uses a gold item instead? You know, what if they start off with Spell Thieves and abuse Bandit instead? You know, it's just a real pain in the butt for the balancing team to deal with. And so I think that, and there's just a really high chance that eventually there are going to be other champions that abuse this, kind of like Gangplank was doing earlier in the season. So I think just getting rid of that, just making sure this is a support-only item is good. Now, this nerf here, I think this one will be a little bit more meaningful, but once again, not a lot. You already get a ton of gold off of Nomads. I think in general, you know, you can expect to get maybe 1 or 2 gold coins per per minute. So, you know, this is going to give you probably like 7 gold, 7 or 8 gold on average extra whenever you get a gold coin. And that's not going to equal the Bandit 13 gold that you were getting. Or the passive, you know, 13 gold that you were basically getting just by sitting in lanes. And then, of course, you don't proc the Bandit either. So some of the Nomad users can use Bandit pretty well. Like, you know, Janna can get in some auto attacks and things like that. But this is definitely going to hurt the gold generation of Nomads a little bit. But frankly, that just got buffed, you know, and all these other ones got nerfed. You know, Nomads just got a free 10 movement speed on it, which is really nice. And then Spell Thieves got nerfed. Targon's got nerfed. So I think it's okay to just smack Nomads a little bit, smack them in the gold. You're still going to get way more gold than any of these other ones. So I think that's fair. Kind of balance this out a little bit more. That's fine. They already buffed her a little bit. They lowered the cooldown on her missiles early and lowered the mana cost. So it's alright. I still think she's a little on the weak side for now. But, you know, we already spent a lot of time talking about her. I think she's not as bad as people think. I think people are just itemizing her wrong, and they're just not having the appropriate playstyle. Like, they're not picking her in the right comps and stuff like that. Like, everyone's just spamming her and trying all these random items out, and no one has any idea what they're doing. And so she's just going to have a really low win rate, you know, for probably about a patch. And then I think she'll normalize, you know, around most of the other 80 carries, like maybe high 40s, low 50s in terms of win rate. Okay. Azir, this is going to hurt his laning phase. It's going to take away a lot of your poke. Azir got smacked on several levels this patch and last patch. I mean, he got direct nerfs, but then also he's not a fantastic tier user, and tier is really sort of the new hotness in terms of overpoweredness. In solo queue, if a champion really can't use tier that well in mid lane, it's going to be a problem. He does use Leandri's and Rylai's pretty well, so he can still go something like Nashor's, Leandri's, Rylai's. But I feel like he's going to get outshined by Cassiopeia, Ryze, and in solo queue, definitely Anivia. You might even see Anivia in some pro play. We'll see. I mean, Anivia is really, really strong right now. I talked about her a lot last night in my 8.5 top 5 for everything in 8.5. But, yeah, I mean, it's okay. Like, if you're still a really good Azir player, you can make this work. But, you know, there's a lot of ifs. It's becoming more and more, if you're not Faker, don't play that champion. So, yeah, it feels bad. I have a buddy who's, you know, an Azir main. He loves playing Azir, and they just keep hitting him with a nerf bat. I mean, I thought he was fine last patch. I don't know why they're messing with him again. But, anyways, it is what it is. He's definitely weaker. Galio, this is really going to hurt Galio, I think. I mean, 40 more mana, like, you're going to have to definitely get a mana item. You're certainly going to have to get, like, Rod of the Ages. And even then, it's going to hurt a little bit. You'll probably still see some Galio in pro play, and he can be alright in solo queue if you have enough damage in your other lanes. You know, he does have a really good combo. If your Galio remembers to use their ult, you know, with someone like a Shin or like a Camille or just anybody that can dive in there, like a Vi, he's alright. So I think this will definitely hurt him mid lane, especially early game. He is going to be very blue dependent, so if you can steal his blue, that's going to hurt him a lot early on. But he'll be alright. I just think, you know, once again, I think that Cassiopeia, Ryze, and Anivia are going to take him to the house. But we'll see. Jhin, some good quality of life buffs. I don't think it's going to be enough to bring him back. I mean, Jhin has a lot of problems. He has itemization problems. He has scaling problems. The meta just doesn't favor him. Like, he's best in a meta where there are really high burst champions and where lethality is the premier item set of items that you want to be getting, are the lethality items. And that's just not the case right now. You know, critical strike is way better than lethality. Gensu's on-hit builders are way better than lethality. And it's just not an early game domination type of meta anymore. I mean, we're kind of moving a little bit back towards that, right? When you have things like Kha'Zix becoming a lot more popular. But Jhin has a really hard time cracking tanks. They did nerf tanks on this patch, which is good. But I still think you're going to see a lot of Sejuani, Skarner, you know, you'll still see some Zac. So I still think a lot of junglers are going to be tanky. There aren't as many tanky supports. So I think that you know, it might be a little better. Another aspect of Jhin is he's just really hard to play, you know, in solo queue, because people have to really play around that fourth shot. You could miss a lot of CS if you're not used to managing that fourth shot properly. And, like, you have to be ready to trade when you land that fourth shot. Like, when your fourth shot is up, you don't want to be wasting that on the minion wave a lot, which most AD carries will do that. When, in fact, you know, when you have that up, you can zone people off the wave and really take lane priority for 5 seconds or however long his passive lasts. So you should be intimidating people with that a lot more than people do. I see so many Jhins just sitting there and just farming with him pretty much, and he has to be a lane bully because he's going to get outscaled most of the time later on because he doesn't benefit from attack speed in a significant way. You know, he does translate attack speed over into AD, but having that extra attack speed and, like, scaling with critical strike and, like, attack steroids that give you bonus attack speed, like, that's what you need to take out tanks, is attack speed plus crit, and he just doesn't have that, so he has a really hard time. And people are starting to run, like, Predator tank stuff, like Predator Olaf, Predator Hecarim. Predator's becoming a lot more popular because they've nerfed almost all of the other runes. You know, it's really pushing people out of Resolve. They've pushed people out of Inspiration. And so a lot of junglers are just kind of going back to Domination because that's the one tree that hasn't been nerfed completely into the ground. And they're figuring out that Predator is really good. Predator plus Ingenious Hunter. Because Ingenious Hunter is going to lower the cooldown on Predator, and it's going to be up a lot. And they've buffed Predator a few patches ago. So that's not good for Jhin. You don't want an Olaf running in your face because you're never going to be able to kill him. Or a Skarner. So, yeah, this is nice. I mean, it's a couple of, you know, minor things here, but I think he needs, you know, a lot more damage. A lot more damage. You know, one way that he used to be used, you're like, well, what happened to him? He used to be so good. I think it was the beginning of last year. Maybe near the end of Season 6 also. What happened was you could use his ult to start a fight. And that was a major, you know, perk with him, especially in professional play. He has such long range on that ult, and it used to slow people for a ton. So you could open up with, like, a pick comp with Jhin, start a fight, and then the rest of your team just, like, swarms in and kills him. But they changed that about his kit, right? So his ult does virtually no damage unless he is about to execute somebody with his fourth shot. And it's a lot easier to dodge his bullets because they don't slow for as much as they did. So, you know, I personally think they should make him, you know, more of a zone caster, like a burst champion, like a Caitlyn, something like that. I think that his trap should be a lot more meaningful. Maybe they should blow up faster. He should be able to get more of them. And just make him this kind of control AD carry, this zone control with his traps. And then, you know, being able to catch people. So I think that's his whole thing, you know, traps plus W plus, like, his ult, being able to catch people. I think that's how I would design him, personally. Just kind of this long-range catcher, sort of like Caitlyn, with a little bit more burst. So, you know, give him some good wave clear. They're doing that. They are increasing, you know, his Q damage on the wave. But I don't know. I would just find more meaningful interactions between his W and his traps, just to give him a unique identity. It's just kind of this bully, zone control, Caitlyn-esque type of champion who has, you know, more burst, maybe more catch tools at his disposal. He's a bit more dangerous. He doesn't have as many escapes. And yeah, I don't know what that would be exactly. Like I said, I would work around his traps because they suck right now. They're pretty awful. And, like, maybe lower the range on the W and make it hit more. Maybe make it crit. If they really want him to play around crit, which it sounds like they want to do, like, they need to have crit interact with his abilities, like, in terms of scaling. That would help out quite a bit. Because he does get crit, he just doesn't get the attack speed. I mean, maybe if you do something special, he gets a lot of attack speed. Like, I know that his whole thing is he's, like, his unique design is that he's not supposed to have any attack speed. But since he gets crit anyways, like, maybe make it to where normal attack speed doesn't do anything for him. But then, you know, if he meets some conditions, then he sort of goes off for a little bit. So maybe if he actually lands the trap on somebody, if it actually blows up, then he, like, freaks out and gets a lot of move speed and, you know, gets a lot of extra attack speed for, you know, 3 or 4 seconds, something like that. just to try to get people to, like, stay in this. It does, you know, decent damage here, right? Like, it's pretty good damage, but I don't know. I think just more meaningful interactions and just having critical strike scale with his abilities. Like, it does scale with his passive, it just doesn't scale with abilities. So, I mean, you could make his ult, like, maybe don't make it, like, the fourth one does critically strike. I don't know. Like, use Xayah as a model, right? Because Xayah's thing is, like, her E scales off of crit. It doesn't crit itself, but it does scale off of your critical strike modifier. And I think doing something like that with his W or his captive audience or just something, and just like, making this interaction a lot more rewarding if it happens. Like, if you actually do trap somebody, or if you do, you know, hit them with the deadly flourish, that something special happens. It does give him every moment matters. I don't know. He's okay. He's an interesting champion. I just think that, you know, right now, the way that he's sort of balanced is he's a very high burst champion that's good against squishies when lethality is a good stat. And that's just not great right now, because a lot of people that are going to be in his face are not going to be squishies, and lethality is not a great stat right now. So I just think he's a victim of poor itemization and relatively poor runing. Okay, let's move on. So I like Jhin. I hope they change him around. I think it's a cool concept, but they have just sort of pigeonholed him into that role, and they've taken away his more interesting role, I think, which was Engager, kind of zone controller. Okay, Nocturne, we'll see about this. He does get more healing, which is nice. This is going to help him out in the jungle a little bit. I think this is kind of a placebo effect, though. I think he's been, like, okay, he's been playable, but people just haven't been playing him. I would rather just play Kha'Zix, though. Like, if you just want someone who's going to run up and assassinate people, I think Kha'Zix just does it a lot better. I think Kha'Zix can fight a lot better early on. The problem with Nocturne is you really need to get to one-shot status to deal with him, and you need to be against an immobile AD carry who can't do anything about, you know, his darkness, right? So, like, Tristana can get away from him. Xayah can probably feathers and get out of it, if she's fast enough when he tries to jump on her. Trying to think of other... I mean, he has a pretty good pick into things like Jinx or Twitch, because they don't really have a lot of escapes. So, I don't know. He's pretty matchup dependent. It does help that they nerf the tank items, because champions like this that are going to be running assassin items are going to be pretty good, but he's okay. I don't think he's going to be top of the list, but, you know, he's a little bit more viable, which is nice. Olaf is... this is just really bizarre changes. Like, this is just baiting people to try to do, like, all 80 Olaf. I think this is overall a nerf to Olaf. I mean, it's possible you could go Warrior instead of Cinderhulk here. I don't think it's going to be enough. So, like, what is his... Let me see his base damage. So, how much would it be to get to that free health? So, they don't want you to just build all, you know, all tank Olaf. Attack damage is 85. How much... Is Warrior 60 or 80? I can't remember. 60. Okay, so if you rush Warrior on Olaf, which I think you probably should still do Cinderhulk, but just in theory, if you rush this, that's 145. Total attack damage. Would take you to like 44 attack damage at level, you know, 7 or 8 whenever you can complete Warrior. So that's pretty close to what he would have at level 6. That's a little bit more if you rush Warrior. I just don't think you're going to be able to get to that 80 number like by the end of the game. I mean, that's like level 16 though. It's going to take forever. Like, this is a much more reasonable path here. You know, you're going to have to get another 80 item to make this work. The problem with Olaf sort of in terms of his stats is like they're trying to make AD a thing. I mean, I guess it does affect his undertow, which is nice. I feel like a lot... Oh, he does have an AD ratio on his Reckless. I didn't realize. I thought that was just flat damage. Okay. The health cost scales based on his total AD. That's pretty troll. I haven't looked at Olaf. He hasn't been relevant in a very long time. But this does do quite a bit of damage. The 260, and then you pick it up. So then it goes on like a really, really low cooldown. If you have any sort of CDR, because the CDR is going to trigger on this, you know, if you have like 20% CDR, that's going to take it down to like, you know, 5.5 seconds. Then you pick it up for 4.5, so it's only going to have like a 1 second cooldown. So yeah, you can just spam this on people between auto attacks. I mean, I guess you could go... I don't really know. I feel like people are still going to go... Let me just see what people are getting here. I have been seeing him a little bit more. Yeah, Righteous Glory, obviously. Most people are still going Cinder Hulks. They just don't care about that 80 ratio, I guess. Yeah, I mean, Righteous plus Predator is pretty sweet. Yeah, and then just go in full tank. Trinity's interesting because you can spam that axe a lot. Just he already does quite a bit of damage, I think, just base damage and true damage. Like, so it is a nerf, basically, to Olaf, because most people are not going to build AD on him. You know, people are still going to go with the Cinder Hulk. That helps his wave clear a lot, and that just makes him tanky. Because you're going to kill the squishy, probably, when you run at their face, you know, and slow him down with Righteous Glory. You're probably going to kill him. It's just, can you survive after that is the question. So, yeah. So, it's a nerf, but I think that they have nerfed some of the other tanks and bruisers and engaged champions enough to where Olaf is going to become a lot more relevant, especially against really squishy AD carries that don't have escapes. So, especially against something like a Jinx or maybe even Xayah. Like, he might be a pretty good counter to Xayah and Rakan as well, because Rakan can't charm him. Xayah can do her feather thing to go up in the air, but she can't stun him if he runs at her. So maybe he's becoming more popular in the pro scenes. I have seen him more specifically as a counter to Xayah Rakan, because he's one of the only people that can dive Xayah and get away with it. Now, she's still going to bust him up and do a lot of damage with those feathers, but it's not going to stun him. So she's not going to be able to kite him as easily. So yeah, overall a nerf, but the meta changes, I think, have turned this into a buff for him. What people get, probably Ingenious. Ingenious is also really good. People are starting to figure out that Ingenious is good. I've been talking about this for a while, but especially with things like Righteous Glory. Because it works with Predator. Predator's cooldown is going to go down a lot, and it works with Righteous Glory. So you're just going to have so many like hard engages. And if you go with Randuin's, which I think is another really good item, because that lowers, that basically just shuts out critical strikes. Critical strikes just are not going to do damage to you most of the time when you have Randuin's. And so, you know, that's really good when most AD carries are running crit. So having, you know, Randuin's on you, and then that also has an active to it that you can use. So that also benefits from Ingenious Hunter, and slows people by 55% for 2 seconds, which is huge. So, yeah, I think that build, the Righteous Glory, Randuin's, Cinder Hulk is good, and each one of these has health on them as well, which scales with Cinder Hulk. I think Olaf's going to be pretty good. I mean, he might be a top 5 jungler right now. It's totally possible that he's going to be really good. I think you'll see him in pro play. I don't know about solo queue. He'll be all right. There'll be some troll people trying to go like full AD Olaf. I had that happen in my games the other day, but I don't think you want to be doing that. If any, I mean, you could try to do like Death Stance or something, but he's already going to have so much damage. I mean, 260 base is already a lot, and this is true damage on his Reckless Swing. So, yeah, it does have that on it, but basically it's like 500 damage. You know, I always say it's good to think about true damage as double damage, because it cuts right through armor. That's not a precise, like, mathematical thing, but It's really good. And he just gets a ton of extra attack speed when he goes in for Vicious Strikes. And just gets a crap ton of healing. And he gets enhanced healing from all sources. So yeah, I mean, I think Olaf really could be a beast now that they have nerfed, they've nerfed Sejuani enough to where she's kind of at a reasonable level. They just nerfed Skarner. And now the meta is shaping up after they've nerfed a lot of 80 carries where Xayah Rakan is sort of the beast mode 80 carry combo, and what makes them strong is their ability to zone people with Rakan's charm and with Xayah's ultimate and then her feathers. Just makes it really hard to get on her. I mean, this could be a decent solution to Anivia too. Because Anivia typically can shut... It's really hard to get on that champion. Like, yeah, they can still wall her. He can still wall her, but Olaf can just run straight around that wall. Because he's going to be flying in at, like, Mach speed. And, yeah, her slow is not going to work. Her stun's not going to work. You know, nothing's going to be able to peel this guy off. So, you know, I think that he could be pretty good. It's even going to be hard for someone like Tristana to get away because she can't Buster Shot him with her R. And if she jumps away, he's still going to trigger the slow from Righteous Glory. And he's still going to be able to, after that, trigger the slow from Randuin's. And then he has the slow on his Undertow. So yeah, I mean, I think this might be a perfect storm for Olaf. You know, I think other people may have been nerfed enough, and just like with how much Predator has changed, or how much the runes have changed to make Predator a much better thing, because he doesn't use Press the Attack. You know, he hasn't had a good rune throughout a lot of the preseason. He hasn't used Press the Attack when it was really strong. He doesn't use Aftershock. He obviously doesn't use Guardian. He doesn't use Fleet Footwork that well. But now that Predator is kind of at the top of the food chain again, and Ingenious Hunter is becoming really good, oh, it's really good. I mean, maybe he deserves to be top 5. The more that I talk about him, the more that I think that he does. He seems really well positioned right now. So I'm going to change that. Yeah, so the more that I've kind of talked this out, I think I'm starting to see the light on Olaf. Okay, there we go. So yeah, I've changed my mind on that one. I think he's actually going to be really strong. Not because of those changes, but because of the way that the meta is shaping up right now. I think that he's going to be one of the only solutions that can get to these really hard to dive, like major like zone control threats. Okay. Rengar, good quality of life buffs for bad Rengar players, but I don't think it's going to matter that much. And what I mean by that is, you know, if you mis-sequence your spells, if you do them out of order, then this is going to have your back. So, for instance, if you try to cast a spell while you're also casting Bullet Strike because you're not used to the animations, then it's going to buffer it. So that you can do a spell right after that. Okay, and if you accidentally, like, try to cast a spell while your auto attack animation is going off, then it's going to allow you to finish that animation after the spell. So, yeah, I think that these two are going to be really good for champions who aren't used to, who accidentally cancel their autos all the time when they're using spells, or they just, you know, slap their hand on the keyboard, and they just, like, want to press all the buttons. So it's really good for, I think, like, amateur Rengar players, which is nice. You might see him in pro play in, like, submarine comps, It's what they used to call them, where you have like a Shin that'll ult on top of him when he jumps in, or like a Galio that'll jump on top of him. So they'll use him as an engage tool, so he'll go in and try to blow up a squishy on the back line, and then they'll engage on top of him. You might see that the nerfs to Cinder Hulk and Warmogs will make that a bit more appealing. But, I mean, you can do a similar thing with Kha'Zix now. Like, he can jump out of a bush and do it. Like, have people, Shin and Galio ult on top of him. So, I don't know. He's okay. I don't think he's going to be that great for most people, but, you know, if you're a really good Rengar player, obviously this is going to be nice. You do get a bit more damage here over time on the Q, which is good. I don't really know exactly what this means. Less lockout time. I mean, this sounds good. He'll be alright. If you're good with him, you're going to like this. If you've never played him and you're not great with him, I mean, this isn't like necessarily a great time to pick him up. Ryze. Now, these are nerfs to Ryze, obviously, but he also got some really big buffs here because the new tier changes are absolutely insane on him, because now he's going to get 20% CDR, which is excellent to help him out with all of his combos. Yeah, so the tier changes are amazing. He doesn't use Leandri's. Does he get death cap? I don't think so. Not until maybe really late in the game. I haven't really followed Ryze too well. Now, Spellbinder is an item that I think people like on him. I know they go Rod Archangels. Yeah, so he does sneak in death cap, like, 4th or 5th item, so that's actually a buff for him. But yeah, so I still think Ryze is going to be really good. You're going to see him a lot in pro play. The tier changes help him a ton. Death cap changes help him. And then he really doesn't want to get Abyssal Mask. He can, and that item's going to get nerfed next patch. So that's going to hurt Cassiopeia probably, and Ryze is going to love it because people aren't going to be able to build that item against him. And I'm not really sure when he gets Spellbinder, but that's kind of a newer item that's good on him too, because he gets a lot more movement speed, which is obviously really good with him. So I still think he's going to be a top pick in pro level play. This does limit his ability to sort of zip around the map, which doesn't matter in solo queue. Most people don't use this ability appropriately anyways. Spell Flux does more single target damage, but it has less spread damage, so it'll be a lot less damage in team fights, and a lot less damage in team fights and a lot less wave clear. So now he can't wave clear and push as well as he used to, which is what a lot of pro players want, especially Koreans. You know, they love that stuff, right? So they love Ryze, who can just push the wave and go teleport to a side lane, or Talia, push the wave, teleport to a side lane, Galio, push the wave, teleport to a side lane. And that's really kind of the winning formula here. I haven't read Ryze in a long time. I'm just like, this champion's been changed so many times, I'm just like, forget it. So I still think he's going to get picked a lot. I still think he's going to be good in pro play, but I don't think he's going to be that great in solo queue unless you're a one-trick or really good with him. I have seen some good Ryzes out there. So, you know, he's iffy. If you haven't played him before and you're thinking of picking him up, you know, he's in the crosshairs of Riot constantly. I think he's probably one of the most reworked champions of all time, if he's not the most. So they're just always changing him. They're always balancing him. He's just almost impossible to balance correctly, because he's a machine gun support that scales off of mana. So he's just very dangerous to try to one-trick him, but you really need to one-trick him to be good enough with him. So, good pro play. Great if you're good with him in solo queue, but otherwise I wouldn't mess with him. Shyvanna gets a little bit more attack damage per level. That's okay. She does benefit very heavily from being able to get press the attack. Like, they just buffed press the attack, which we'll get to here in just a second. And we're probably almost at an hour, aren't we? Yeah, we need to try to pick it up here. But yeah, press the attack she definitely likes. And then, you know, she likes going, like, Blood Razor, Frozen Mallet, I think. No, they did nerf Frozen Mallet for ranged champions, but it doesn't affect melee champions, so that's fine with her. She's alright. They nerfed her quite a bit a couple of patches ago. I think there are probably better options most of the time, but press the attack, I mean, she still can be legit. I just feel like, you know, something like Warwick is just going to be better. You know, he has more CC, and he can run around and take objectives really quickly as well, which is kind of what she does. She just, like, hyper farms, just, like, power farms the jungle and just, you know, gets a lot of items and just jumps at people later in the game. She's all right. I just think there are probably better choices. Skarner, they're nerfing the stun duration on his E. 1.5 seconds is light years in 2018. You know, regularly, you know, a lot of champions would have stuff like that back in the day. I mean, Fiddlestick's Fear used to be 3 seconds. You know, CC was a lot longer, but over time they've shortened it because, you know, it's just not fun to not be able to use your champion for a while. So they've just increased the damage on stuff and decreased the cooldown reduction, or the CC duration. So I still think he'll be pretty good. I mean, what has made him good is, you know, running him with Predator. Because he is a very good Predator user, and as I keep saying, all these other champions have been nerfed with it. So any champion, really, that can run Righteous Glory plus Predator and a Genius Hunter is going to be in a good place. And he sort of fits in that with Olaf. I'm not sure if Olaf is going to supplant him or not now, though. They are different. The problem with Skarner, though, and, like, high-level play or any level play where people are, like, actually thinking is if someone gets a Quicksilver Sash, they can get away from him. So he's probably going to have better CC and ganking than someone like Olaf. But, you know, he can still get dealt with a little bit better by Sion Rakan. He can still get charmed. They can Quicksilver Sash his ult. You know, there's just more counterplay to him than Olaf. Olaf just runs at you and he's going to kill you, is what it seems like to me. Olaf, I think, has higher base stats, too. Olaf does way more damage. So I don't know. I expect Skarner to still be good in like a pick comp. You know, you can grab people, pick them off, but I don't think he solves the Xayah Rakan issue or the Anivia issue as well as Olaf does. But he's going to more consistently be a gank threat early on. So Olaf's probably going to be better in team fights and for running people down. But Skarner's going to be a lot better with those ganks, especially like as soon as he pops 6. So Skarner's going to have more presence kind of in the early to mid game, I think. And then Olaf is going to be much more useful late game. That's kind of my prognosis. But I think that they'll both be really good in competitive and in solo queue. Swain got some huge buffs. They buffed this guy so many times over the last few patches. This is pretty meaningful, though. They increased the radius on his never move by a lot. I mean, that's almost 50% increase. That's like a 40% increase or something. And the ability for this R to go through champions and hit multiple people just makes it a lot easier to use in a team fight. There's a much higher probability you're going to get those, you know, awesome case scenarios where you just, you know, completely just quad kill the other team. So I think he's really good. Also, don't forget that Morellonomicon, most people are not going to get that item anymore. And so that's going to make him a lot stronger. So people aren't building Thornmail as much anymore. And people aren't going to be building Morello as much anymore. So, you know, if the AD carry wants to deal with you, they're going to have to get Executioners, which is 800 gold. You know, Varus can kind of deal with him with his W. But overall, there's just a lot less Grievous Wounds out there. So that's going to make his ult a lot stronger. So I think he's going to be really good. I mean, he might be a top 5 top laner or mid laner. It's difficult to say. I mean, he's still relatively immobile and can get ganked and killed pretty easily. I'm still not sure which cases you would want him over Vlad, like a good Vlad player. Vlad definitely, you know, he doesn't use tier, which is a thing, but he does really like Rylai's and Leandri's. I'm not really sure. Like, Vlad is picked into certain matchups like assassin type of champs, but I don't know. I feel like Swain's going to be pretty good. Doesn't have a huge win rate yet, but the fact that he can go, you know, tier Leandri's Rod is kind of the winning formula here. We'll see. I'm gonna say I don't think he's gonna be a top 5, but I think that he'll be interesting. He'll be a viable pick. Okay, Tristana, I still think she's top 5. This doesn't fix what's bad about Tristana, especially for most people in solo queue. Like, 25 range is important, but at the same time, you know, under Diamond, no one's going to punish you for having 25 less range. Just watch any Caitlyn player that has 650 range and never auto-attacks the enemy AD carry ever. But I still think she's going to be good. Like, what makes her really strong is the buffering on her W. I talk about this. I complain about it at least once every night on stream. I don't complain about a ton of champions on stream in terms of being, like, too strong. But Tristana, it's been this way for ever since they nerfed Caitlyn a ton. The middle of last year, she was out-competing Tristana, so Tristana wasn't a champion because Caitlyn was just way too strong. But Trist's ability to break crowd control with her W is probably the most frustrating interaction in the whole game. That's what I think. I mean, I'm trying to think of something that's more frustrating than that, other than getting, like, hourglassed or something on a kill shot. But Tristana's buffering certainly has to be up there, because you hit her with the crowd control. Like, she starts her little animation for Rocket Jump, you hit her with the hook, with Blitzcrank, or you hit her with whatever, and she just ignores it and jumps out of there. Like, she's basically has, like, a little mini Olaf ult whenever she wants with her W. And it's just bull. It shouldn't work that way. It just feels wrong. Because most other champions don't have that, right? If they try to do their movement thing and you hit them with your skill shot, it should feel rewarding. It should be like, man, I got her. She was just trying to jump. And the thing is, it's so confusing because if she's in the air, you can knock her out of the air, right? So if you're Thresh and she tries to jump away, you can stop her with your Flay after she's already airborne. You can stop her. But if you try to hook her while she's taking off before she leaves the ground, then it's not going to stop her. Or if you try to Flay her or anything, it's not going to stop her. So it's just really inconsistent, and it's just really, it feels bad. Because you can stop her when she's in the air, but you can't stop her when she's, like, in the motion of taking off to go in the air. So it's just a really confusing interaction. I wish they would fix that. Just say, look, you don't get that. If, you know, and if they need to make her jump faster or whatever, like an instant jump instead of like this, you know, quarter-second delay, that's fine. I don't care. Just make it to where crowd control actually works on her. But anyways, that's super frustrating, and the fact that she gets resets on her W, not only if she gets a kill or an assist, but also if she just fully triggers her bomb, just gives her too much utility. It allows her to reposition in fights to new safe positions, or if you're winning the fight, it allows her to leapfrog and constantly keep jumping on people to get pentas or quads, you know, in fights. So she has a lot of scaling, she has a lot of damage, she takes towers really quickly, she has respectable wave clear. She has crowd control immunity if you know what you're doing with her W. She has 300 damage on her ult at level 6. Why? Seriously, it's 300 damage. I know people are probably rolling their eyes who watch a lot of my videos, but if you're new to the channel, you know, some of this stuff is just incredible on this champion. It's like, how on earth did this get past R&D? Right? 300 base damage. Why? That's more than most mages. If you think of someone who does, like, really high burst damage, like, wow, that person just blew you up. I mean, let's look at... like, Orianna. 150 damage. So, a champion whose ult is designed to just about one-shot people has half the damage as Tristana, base damage, on her ability. You know, let's look at something like Fizz, right? Huge. Burst Assassin, you know, designed to one-shot you if he lands his fish on you. You only get 300 damage if you hit somebody with a very slender skill shot from, like, however many units away. 910 units away. So that's, like, almost a max-length shark if you hit somebody with it. Then it's going to deal 300 damage. Tristana, no skill shot. You literally just point-click on them and press R, and it does 300 damage. Like, that's just a ludicrous number for anybody, like a mage, an 80 carry, anybody. So it's just stupid that she has that, and it's also on a really low cooldown, and it also has a lot of utility. She could knock back multiple people. It only hits one person to deal damage, but it knocks back all enemies around them, so you can blow an entire enemy team back. It's almost like you have a little mini Janna ult there if they're all stacked up. So it's just crazy. It's a low cooldown, has great utility, has insane burst damage. Like, her dueling power at level 2, or at level 6 rather, is ridiculous. Really high scaling, 110% attack speed steroid that lasts for 7 seconds in a fight. Like, get out of here with this nerf, man. I mean, she's still so good. Like, she's still going to be a top 380 carry. Now, you may not see her in pro play because that 25 damage does matter a lot, especially in like Korean pro play. Xayah also has 525, just for reference, but Xayah can increase her, you know, range quite a bit when she gets her feather passive going. So, you know, I think that for now, on this patch, you'll probably see a lot more Varus, Xayah, maybe even Caitlyn early on, but I still think some people might pick her, and for solo queue, like I said, where most people are not going to punish that 25 range, she's still going to be amazing. Twitch, I don't get it. I don't know why they're buffing this champion. Like, he's a true terror. Like, he does so much damage. He just, if he's ever in the game, he's always a threat. This is like one of the other champions that I'll complain about sometimes. And I've been telling people to play Twitch for years. Like, he's always under the radar. People just don't like to play him. He's a dirty rat. You know, he doesn't have a lot of, like, really cool skins like other champions. But you know what? He gets the job done. He gets W's. He just scales really hard later into the game, does a ton of damage. His laning phase sucks, but that's pretty much about it. That's a small price to pay for having, like, almost permanent invisibility. So you can just catch people out all the time with Twitch. Especially like platinum and lower, somebody is just going to be pushing a side lane. They're not paying attention. Twitch rolls up, kills them. It just happens constantly. Like, there are so many games where Twitch will go like 0-3 down 30 CS in lane. And then 25 minutes rolls around. You look up and you're like, what the hell? Now he's 6-3 and he's up 50 CS and he's got 3 items and he one-shots our team. Like, that's just how Twitch does it. And he just falls behind early and just, if you don't close the game before 25 minutes, he's just going to destroy you. Now, Olaf and Rakan and champions like that have a better time dealing with Twitch, but he is definitely a force to be reckoned with. So I still think that Twitch is going to be extremely strong, and I don't know why they're buffing him. It was fine. Because the thing you have to remember about the E is that's not every single stack of E that does this damage. He has a base damage, and then he can get up to 5 stacks of poison on somebody, and then it does even more damage. So this was just the base damage. It was just 20 damage or whatever that he was missing off of a spell that does like 500. So I don't know. So, I mean, it's not a big buff, but at the same time, he didn't need a buff at all. If anything, he needs a nerf. Volibear, I think, was just like kind of flavor of the week. I don't know why everyone was so hype on this champion. He did get some buffs. It is a cool interaction with Majestic Roar and movement speed, but I think he's going to come down to earth. I mean, yeah, he can do something like Predator. You know, he can do the whole Predator Righteous Glory thing, which I think is going to kind of be the new paradigm of a lot of really strong champs. It's like a lot of people are still using Aftershock on him, though. I don't know. I feel like Predator is just really strong right now with Ingenious Hunter if you're going Righteous, but anyways, I just feel like he's a worse version of Skarner and Olaf, so maybe if those two are banned, he gets in like 3rd string or something. He does quite a bit of burst damage. But yeah, I just don't think he's as good as those other ones, but you know, he's still serviceable. He's alright. He's probably like a top 10, top 15. I have seen a lot of Zoes do a lot better in solo queue recently. That's quite a significant damage buff from where she was. She has a much higher ability power on her Q also. So that's a really big deal. What Wait, why is this increased? Because it doesn't apply sparkles? I think that's more damage, right? I mean, let me look at Zoe. Like, obviously it's more damage, but is it more overall? Because you can still apply your sparkles by just, like, R'ing in and auto-attacking them. So how much? Zoe's next basic attack within 5 seconds deals... Okay, 32% AP, and, like, at level... At max level, it's 135. Okay, at max level, it's 50. So that's less. But it has a 0.6 ability power. What was it? 135. So if you have 150 ability power... let's see. That'd be an extra, like, 0.4. It'd be an extra 60. That'd be 110. This had a 32 on it. I think it's less damage overall, but the thing is, like... I mean, it's less damage. If you land a basic attack, though, you can get this and Paddle Star in. I think. So if you land... But you could do that anyways. I don't know. Like, you could RN, you know, auto attack, bubble somebody, and then Paddle Star them for a lot of damage. I don't know. It's less than it used to be, I think. I don't know. Look, she still one-shots people. Like, that, I can tell you that. If she sleeps you and you don't get out of that sleep, you're probably going to die. Like, so I don't know the exact numbers on it, but just anecdotally from what I've seen from Zoe's in my game, you're still in really deep trouble if she lands you, if she hits that bubble on you and has, like, 1 or 2 items, you're probably dead. So, yeah, I don't really know, like, the exact math on how this compares to how it used to be. But it's good. This is more damage, I think. Either way, she still one-shots. She gets 550 range, which is really nice for last hitting and harassing in lanes. That's very nice. W. Okay, longer lock-on range is good. A little bit more damage, a little bit more scaling. So she has better ability power scaling, too. I mean, she still is a good champion now, I think. I mean, she's just a long-range assassin. So I think she's good. I don't think she's going to be, like, the overpowered state where she was before, but I think that she can certainly be pretty good. I saw Zoe single-handedly win a game against my team the other day because we just couldn't siege her. And she just gets to sit there and just chuck bubbles all day until she hits somebody and kills them, so... I still think she's good. I don't know if she'll be... I mean, she can use... what does she even build? I would assume that she's building tier. Just like everybody else. Oh, she actually likes Ludens, which kind of makes sense because she has an all-in, like, burst. Okay. This person built Ludens and tier? Like, that haste passive doesn't stack, bro. Seems like more and more people are doing that, though. They're stacking Ludens and tier. That's weird. Anyways, she'll be alright. She'll be viable. Top 10. Probably mid laner. Sion. Now, I'm not sure what changed with this chant. Like, they said that much wider than intended. I don't know what that means. Like, in terms of actual radius. But if that means it's a lot harder to hit his E in lane on people, he's going to be a lot worse. I mean, I talk about this all the time, and I know this is one of the most controversial things on the channel right now, is I'm really not a believer in Sion, like, at all. I mean, I just don't get it. Like, he has pretty good poke, he has survivability later in the game. I just feel like he doesn't scale at all. Like, if the game goes to, like, 25, 30 minutes, I just don't think he's that great. I mean, I guess, like, in pro play, you can just stick him top. It's just kind of this wall that, you know, you don't have to mess with, and you can go camp bottom lane or something. I don't know. I feel like Cho'Gath matches up very well against him, though, and I just feel like in solo queue, you aren't going to have the specific kind of team comp that you need to make him work most of the time. You're basically telling your teammates, look, I'm going to be a bully in lane, I'm going to have virtually zero scaling, and I'm not going to be able to split push. So, can we please close this game out in 25 minutes? And that's what you're saying when you pick Sion, I think. And I just don't think that's a good place to be. I would rather have much higher scaling on a champion. I mean, Lally is kind of a bully too in lane also, and she scales really well and like has like major team fight presence. Or like even Nasus doesn't have as much laning presence, but or like Darius. Like Darius is a huge lane bully also. I mean, he doesn't split that well either, but I just feel like he has a lot more threat in team fights than Sion does. I don't know. I mean, I know people are going to disagree. They're going to say, but Sion, he's got this huge win rate, and everybody plays him in pro play right now, and he's so strong. And maybe. I mean, maybe I'm just an irrational hater of Sion. I don't get it. He is falling down a little bit on this patch. He was like 54%, I think. He still is up here. And, you know, if people don't want to believe me and you want to play this champion, like, that's fine. I'm just telling you, I get excited when I see a Sion on the enemy team. Like, I have lost a Sion before, but I'll tell you right now, I'll give you a Sion any day of the week. I'd rather be matched up against a Sion than against, like, a Lulu. Lulu is a living nightmare right now. Like, this champion is so frustrating to play against, and she's so strong in almost any comp. She's just really, really hard to deal with. And so I know she has, like, a 4 or 5% less win rate, technically, than Sion does. But some of these things are just skewed. I mean, look at it. Are you legit going to tell me that Rek'Sai is the third best support? No. No. Like, you can't tell me that. And this is the thing about stats that people don't like. This play rate is so low. Like, it's like one guy or girl who's playing this champion who has 28 games on it. I don't know who this person is. Or like Nidalee support or Poppy support, you know, like, this is why you have to be very careful, and I don't make videos strictly based on win percentages like a lot of other YouTubers out there who just, like, you know, look at op.gg or look at champion.gg and they're like, okay, these are the best champs because they have the highest win percent. And it's like, no. There could be all kinds of under-the-cover stuff going on there. So it just depends. Things like, these are the best, like, Janna, Lulu, Rakan. Those are all, like, really good champions, but they're going to have lower win rates, especially on Lulu and Rakan, because they're hard to play, and a lot of people are playing them that don't know how to play them. I mean, look at the average games are, like, 5, 7. You know, so these are people that are getting auto-filled, or they're just picking Rakan because their ally has Xayah, and they don't know how to play this champion. Versus when you look at something like Sion, that's like 10 games. That's like a bunch of one-tricks playing Sion. Pretty much. So yeah, anyways. So Sion, you know, if you want to play him, you can play him. I just feel like he's too telegraphed with it, and he just doesn't scale enough. But that's fine. So this nerf is definitely going to hurt him a little bit, and the change to Banner Command is going to hurt him because people are abusing Banner with him. Banner's still a good item, but it's not as good as it was. And that'll segue into Banner here. This is not going to completely just bulldoze towers like it did, but it's still good if you put it in a side lane for extra pressure. So, and this has been the case all preseason. I have an entire video about Banner of Command from earlier in the preseason, so it's not like this item just all of a sudden became good. It's been good. People just have started to realize that it's good in the support role, right? So, you know, all the other tank items have been nerfed, or a lot of them have, over the course of the preseason and the start of the season here, and so that makes Banner better by comparison. But as far as, like, supports go, this has always been a viable option in certain circumstances on certain champions. So, you know, I think it'll continue to be a good option. You know, since you can't split with Sion, you could put a Banner in the side wave or just, like, a Zizirot portal or something that can help you add some extra pressure because you don't apply it by yourself most of the time. But anyways, so... yeah, I mean, I think Sion's good for, like, the first 20 minutes, but he starts falling off pretty hard. So Banner, still viable, not as strong as it was. Cinder Hulk, this 5% is going to matter, but maybe not as much as people think. I don't know. It looks like Jax is still going Cinder Hulk. Olaf's still going Cinder Hulk. I think it's going to take a lot for people to want to go Warrior. I don't think it's going to push those champions out. Like, this is mostly going to hurt Sejuani. So people who wanted to go Cinder Hulk directly into Warmogs, it's going to hurt them the most. But Cinder Hulk is still going to be the most popular and most powerful enchantment probably for most junglers. Warrior's okay. Like, obviously Warrior's good on things like Kha'Zix, Rengar. But I still expect, like, Disruptor junglers that run Cinder Hulk to be kind of the best. So champions like Skarner, Sejuani, Olaf, Jax. You know, I expect a lot of those to kind of still rule the jungle, and they're all going to go Cinder Hulk. So, minor slap on the wrist of them. It helps out things like Kha'Zix, you know, in the jungle a bit more. I don't think it's going to change around the pecking order that much. You know, this is the change to Warmogs. The main person who's going to get hurt by this the most is Soraka, ironically, because you're not going to be able to get this item as Soraka until you're a much higher level. Which, it's kind of a weird boutique build on her anyways, but it was really good in the cases where it was good, where you'd get this as, like, third item. But that's definitely off the table now. You know, pretty much with Sejuani, it's just going to force her to wait, like, an additional, you know, 4 or 5 minutes before she can get this. She can get something like a Randuin's first, or at least a piece of the Randuin's, and then transition over and get Warmogs after that. So, I don't think this fixes the problem. I think, you know, what they're telling me here is that this passive is way too strong on Warmogs. Right? So they're, like, nerfing the time it takes to turn on the passive. Here's an idea. Just nerf the passive. You know? Like, they buffed it so heavily. I guess back in 7.9. They changed it to 5% health from 3%. So people get their health back, like, so quickly. I don't know. This item is still really strong, I think. It's 105 gold percent efficient without it, and it's at least 640% gold efficient with it. Like, that number is just too insane. So, you know, yeah, okay, it's going to take... Sejuani was the main offender, and the reason that Sejuani's so good with that is because with her passive, she gets a ton of armor and magic resist for the first few seconds after she starts a fight. And so, this... allows her to work around that, or like to synergize with that even more by stacking a ton of health, because health stacks so well with armor and magic resist because they all multiply off of each other and scale so well. I'm going to have a scaling video coming out here pretty soon where I'll talk about that a little bit more, but that's why if you have a champion that has a lot of flat resists, then health is good. If you have a champion that has a lot of health, then flat resists are good. I'm wondering now, Olaf, I thought Olaf used to scale with health, like, he used to do, like, 2% of his health or something, of his max health on some of his abilities. Maybe they took that off. They've changed Olaf a few times over the years. Maybe I'm just crazy. I just want to look and see. Guess they changed Vicious Strikes, Broloff, Armor, Movement Speed. Okay, yeah, Vicious Strike used to be, the W was damage based per 2% of your missing health. Bonus attack speed, health cost. Anyways, I'm going pretty far down the rabbit hole. I mean, we're back in, like, Season 2 territory here. Anyways, okay, so let's get back on track here. So yeah, I don't think it's going to make a huge deal for most people except for Soraka. Maybe Cho'Gath, but I still think that Cho'Gath's going to be able to hit this threshold very early on with his passive. So, you know, 2 items. He's still going to have it. Yeah, he's still going to go, like, Gargoyles plus Warmogs. plus Righteous Glory. Yeah. So yeah, I don't think that's going to matter very much for what he wants to do. What else here? So yeah, good nerfs. I like the nerfs to Cinder Hulk Warmogs. They're at least trying to tone down the tanks a little bit, but still a little bit too strong. I don't think this is going to matter too much. It might matter for some champions. Good change. Cloud buff, a little bit more relevant in combat. I always thought Cloud buff was pretty good. I mean, not as good as the other ones, but still, like, legit. It just allowed you to rotate so quickly. So, pretty good. If you go Precision into Dominion, you get a couple of extra stats, whatever. Press the attack. This is pretty significant. Like, this is going to help out champions like Jax, Irelia, Lucian. They basically all get an extra 4% damage early on, damage boost, which is huge. Don't forget they increased the base damage that Press the Attack did. So now we've almost gone full circle, right? If you look at Press the Attack, it used to do a lot of damage on the trigger, and then it used to give you like 12% flat. So what they did originally was they said, okay, we're going to increase the trigger damage, but we're going to take it down to 4% early, scaling to 12 from 12% all levels. Massive nerf, so Press the Attack people really cried a lot last patch. Now they're increasing it back 8 to 12. And they changed it here to where it no longer triggered, the third hit no longer triggered the exposed effect. So anyways, I think it's pretty good. Again, so champions like I said, Irelia, Jax, Shyvanna, Lucian, all these are going to like it. The biggest beneficiary is Jax because he's someone that's just really good anyways, and this helps him out. This might help out Irelia top lane as a fighter. I don't know how she matches up against something like Sion. But Jax is probably the biggest mainstream person who's going to benefit from this. Fleet Footwork is going to hurt a lot in terms of sustain in lane. So champions that have a rough laning phase, like Vayne, Twitch, stuff like that, are going to have a hard time with this. Even maybe Tristana to an extent. But people are still going to get this item, or get this rune, because it just scales so well later in the game with the crit build. Because remember, they changed it to where if you critical strike, it gives you a lot of extra healing. And that's really what made this a viable rune in the first place several patches ago. So, you know, I don't think that's going to change. It's going to make the laning phase a little bit tougher. But people will still use this as a substitute for a lifesteal item because no one wants to buy lifesteal. You know, everyone always wants to go Static Rapid Fire, Infinity Edge right now. Or, you know, Gensu's Hurricane. And then I guess maybe you'll get Blade after that sometimes. But yes, the only person who gets lifesteal is Draven. So people will still want Fleet Footwork so they don't have to get the lifesteal. Aftershock, I think that's okay. This will hurt some champions who can be very aggressive early on. So like Alistar primarily, who could abuse this. Maybe Shin support. Like people who can force action, like very reliably every 20 seconds. This is a big deal. For champions that, you know, don't reliably force action every 20, this is not a huge deal. It's still going to be online whenever you start a fight. It's just, it's not going to be online as often. So this will stop some corner cases like, you know, like Riven top, I think, was starting to use this, and just a couple other champions. Maybe like Maokai. I don't really know if like Maokai or Shin would use this top, but it's people who could force a fight every 20 seconds. It was good, but champions who don't force a fight every 20 seconds, it's not going to matter that much, so it'll be okay. I mean, the bigger issue with that tree is that the 4th rune in that tree is absolutely trash. And I talked about this last night. When you go into the Resolve tree, this is what has hurt the Resolve tree more than anything, was shuffling Second Wind into this tree and then forcing people to buy one of these. Because Second Wind is really good. That's one of the best runes in the whole tree. But this stuff here is a hot pile of trash for most champions. Like, Overgrowth is awful. Unflinching is, like, not that great. It's okay, but It's pretty terrible. It's pretty terrible. And Revitalize is good on some champions, like Janna, maybe Rakan. It's all right. Champions who are going to get Redemption and Locket because, you know, don't forget Revitalize, buffs, or augments, Redemption and Locket. But then with other champions, most tanks, it's not going to be good. So this is just pretty trash. And the fact here that you can get second win, but you can't also get conditioning. Conditioning is a wonderful bargain at 10 minutes. It's like 500 gold. Something like that. Bone plating is actually pretty good. So that's nice. But, yeah, so that's really what has hurt Aftershock the most, is that this other stuff, this right here is just trash. So a lot of people are just getting Resolve secondary now, so they can get Bone Plating and Second Wind, which is really nice for all ends. And so they'll just go something like either, you know, one of these. Inspiration or Sorcery a lot of the times. So, I think that's what has hurt Resolve Tree the most. Not necessarily the Aftershock nerf or the Guardian nerf, but those certainly don't help. And I guess that's it. This patch. I don't know about loot changes or open parties or all that. I mean, sure, that sounds good. I don't know what that means. You can queue up your Roar, your E? I don't know. I haven't read these. I'm just kind of looking over this. Okay, so this I was right about this. Someone told me, they're like, excuse me, strategy professor, Haunting Guise does not apply to true damage. And I'm like, but it doesn't say that it doesn't. Usually if something doesn't apply true damage, then it'll tell you that in the ability. So this did actually apply true damage off Haunting Guise. So if you stacked up Haunting Guise and used Vel'Koz, all that true damage got amplified by it. So anyways, it did work last patch. I guess they're calling that a bug, but it did work until they just fixed it. Okay. So that's pretty much it. So be sure to check out the other content that I have for 8.5. I just did a top 5 for each role. Check out that video. I'm going to do a support tier list video. But yeah, overall, I mean, pretty good patch. Like I said, Kesa, not going to make a huge impact early on. She could be okay. Support nerfs. Gold nerfs don't matter that much. Olaf, I think, is probably one of the biggest winners here, even though, like, not because of his buffs, but just because people are, like, other champions have been nerfed around him. And the fact that you just really need somebody who can't be crowd controlled, who can dive in this meta, just the way that it's shaping up, I think that Olaf is just becoming a real good champion in the current meta. Trist still strong. Swain going to be more viable. Sion overhyped. Press the attack really good. Okay, so that's kind of the TLDR. All right. Anyways, thank you very much. Have a good day, and I'll see you next time.